Welcome to the People-Powered Community Podcast, where we dive into the inspiring stories of go-to-market professionals who have leveraged their skills to create strong and lasting connections within their community. Get ready to be inspired and learn how you too can harness your business superpower for good.
Hello, and welcome to the People-Powered Community Podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Greenwood, founder and CEO of Chief Evangelist Consulting. And today I have not just one, but two guests with me. I have Asher Mathew, the CEO of Partnership Leaders, which is a thriving community around partnerships I'm excited to have with us. And then Mark Kilens, he's the CMO of AirMeet, also very interested in people first go-to-market and all things, I think, community and partnerships as well. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. We are going to call this a special episode. And let's get started. So, Asher, good afternoon.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, of course. It's my pleasure. Tell us a little bit about Partnership Leaders.
Yeah, so Partnership Leaders was born out of a need of my own to figure out what do I do after partnerships. And I was able to find a couple of other really amazing humans called Chris and Ty, who became my co-founders in this journey. And there was no home for partner people back when we started, which is about 4 years or so ago. And now we have become the premier community for partnerships people around the world. And really to understand what the needs of partner people are around the world, we've actually gone out on these elevation tours. We just did one in Australia and New Zealand, and we're about to do another one in Europe and UK. And then, we're on this journey to elevate partnerships teams around the world, and we'll see where it goes.
Awesome. I wish I knew anything about partnerships, because I would definitely be like begging you to go on these trips, because it sounds amazing.
Well, it has a lot to do with community, so you can join us anyways.
Very good. Very good. Well, I will say, at some of the place where we met in person for the first time, B2BMX, the partnership people, you all are a tight knit group.
Yeah.
Like if I ask anybody, oh, do you know so-and-so, or you know so-and-so? Everybody knows everybody.
Yep.
You're all very friendly with each other. And it just seems like if you say channel and partnerships, you're just all right there together all the time.
Yeah, it's a gift.
Yeah, there you go. Well, maybe that's part of why you're all in partnerships.
Totally.
So, well, Mark, welcome. Nice to see you again. We still have not met in person yet.
That's true, but it's great to be with you both. Thanks, Leslie.
Oh, of course. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at AirMeet, and give us a little intro.
Yeah, happy to. So I lead the whole marketing team at AirMeet. It's a Series B company. I'm really focused on three disciplines: brand/content marketing, if you will, with events in there, revenue marketing, and then product marketing. It's kind of how the team set up. But I'm a huge proponent in this mindset of people first kind of go to markets, along with this kind of a approach that I think more companies need to take. It's been inspired from my time at HubSpot for a long time, at Drift for a good amount of time, and now AirMeet. Happy to talk about that. But just great to talk about community, because at the end of the day, like what I think, and Asher, I've talked about this a little bit. At the end of the day, when it comes to an output of what you would see and expect from a people first kind of go to market, is an ecosystem, number one. And I think an ecosystem is actually different than community, different than partnerships. We could debate that if you guys want, or maybe you agree. And then I also think it's a word of mouth flywheel. Like the most important thing that a business can try to cultivate for long-term durability is word of mouth. So I think there needs to be a real approach that someone has to teach you now to actually help you cultivate word of mouth that you can also measure and almost predict.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
I remember why. Okay, so long story short, people, this is we're going to completely be truthful about everything. Leslie, Mark, and I said, let's do a podcast together about a month or so ago. And then by the time this podcast started recording, we actually forgot why we actually decided to do a podcast together. But it just clicked to me because I saw something that Mark had posted, and at the same time, Leslie had said, hey, we should do a podcast together. And at that same time, I'd actually asked a few people who the hero of their story was. And I kid you not, 7 out of 7 could not tell me who the hero of their story was. And then at that same time, Mark and I had the conversation about people first go to market. And so now the whole thing kind of comes together of like why I actually said like, hey, we should all get on the call together, because it's crazy that people are not able to simply say who the hero of their story is. And maybe that's just me, but like in the day and age that we live in, everything's so personal and there's so much information coming at people that they want to be elevated. They want to be recognized. They want to tell their own stories as well. So the company or the go-to-market should be designed around people. And that's why I kind of recommended the three of us get together.
Well, and of course, the name of this podcast is the People Powered Community Podcast. So I guess it does. Now that you've put this in my mind, we are finally meshing. We've got it. We have seen how it goes. Well, one of the things that struck me,
by the way, is my superpower. By the way, it's like I'm only good at connecting. That's it. I cannot do anything after that.
We'll dive into that in a minute after we get past top of mind. But one of the things, Mark, you said that resonates me is just this people flywheel.
Yep.
And, one of the things, and actually it was Asher who helped me kind of like think through my thoughts on what I wanted to like focus on and what my kind of company was going to be about. And he was like, you're talking about evangelist-led growth, which is what you're talking about, which is, having these humans, the individual users of your community, of your, product, et cetera, that are so happy with your brand. You've delivered above and beyond. And whether that's with the product, whether that's with the service, whether that's the connectivity with the community, that they want to go out and talk about it. And that's with I just read Drive by Daniel Pink, and I'm not a fan of compensating people for doing that. I think it's best when they can do it on their own. We might nudge them and enable them a little bit. But I wonder, is that similar to what you're talking about with this people first?
No, it definitely is. I mean, one like really tangible example is IKEA. IKEA does something brilliant with their business model. Do either of you like love IKEA?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Had a whole house full of it.
I would say my wife loves it more, but
yeah. And so what does IKEA do that makes it so powerful when it comes to brand loyalty? Any guesses?
Swedish meatballs.
That's a good one.
Dollar ice creams. we could be here all day.
Yeah. So there's some deep psychology behind what they did. I'm not sure like if they did intentionally, but now they've leaned so far into this. They make you put the furniture together on your own.
Yeah.
That is a very big driver to why people keep going back to IKEA, because also not only that, with a lot of what you buy from IKEA, you can transform it, morph it into different things around your house. So it's the direct, but then also this intangible value that you get from things that will create this stronger pull of affinity, to your point, to then, Leslie, like evangelism, to then spreading it, to then championing it, that you can't like... You can design it with that intentionality at a product level. But sometimes you almost have to, like, now in the age of AI, I almost think like more and more companies and product leaders are going to have to think like that, because value creation, everything will be commoditized. It's just a matter of like when and how much. Value creation will have to come from other places. And that's where I think community, why we all believe community is so important, and other things that revolve around that, et cetera. So just wanted to throw that out there to maybe start a discussion.
And maybe I think the thing with IKEA is everybody that's a repeat shopper of IKEA has somewhat of the IKEA-ness embedded in their identity. They like to tinker with things. They like to visualize how things could be put together, right? Like I go back to why my mom wants to go shop at IKEA is because she's like, hey, we'll just go there. There'll be an expert that helps us out. We'll design the whole thing, and I can actually put things into the places that I want, right? That last part is, I think, part of the identity value that IKEA has, that it's been able to push amongst their customers, and every single person that goes back to IKEA, I feel, has that thing in it. And that's kind of what I think is what products now need to be shaped around is, do they change or help elevate the identity of the people that use them?
Yeah, it's got to be much more like every time I talk about community, it's like your product is not going to be the community. It is something else around the product, whether it's, your values, your mission, et cetera, that's around embedded, the product is embedded into, that is going to make the experience, something that's going to be beyond what their expectation is.
Yeah, it's what IKEA calls it. Maybe not IKEA. This is actually just going back to psychology. It's psychological ownership. So with IKEA, they make you put these things together, and that makes you value it that much more because psychologically you have a deeper ownership of that product because you built it.
Interesting.
So I think that has a lot of parallels to do with community and whatnot. We can get into all this, right? And this comes back like full circle to my HubSpot days, but yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting, I was at a meeting or like a round table last week, and they were asking me like, when you're looking for community leaders within the community, what do you look for? What's that thing? And I'm glad you said psychological ownership because that is the thing. I said it's this something. It's this desire to give more. The desire, you have this intangible something that makes you say, I'm here. I want to participate. I don't need to be paid. I love this beyond what the normal is. And just because everybody wants to do a community job and be a community leader until the job actually comes.
Yep.
And then they're like, oh, this is a lot of work. Peace out. I'm sure we've all seen that in our days. And so that psychological ownership is what really is what you're looking for in that instance.
100%.
Yeah. How do you see that, Asher, play out in partnership leaders?
So the thing I would say we're a little early. We haven't hit that stage yet. But the thing that, and what I mean by that is like Chris and I just went full time. I want to say like maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And before that, it was just a hobby project. It just became extremely big than what we both thought it would be. And Ty also. And so the way we look at it is the community's job, and this may be different. It'll be great to get both of your views on this too, is what we have created needs to have some destination for the people that are participating. They join on their own, right? Our members join on their own. They have a lot of pride in being a part of it and contributing. But this thing cannot be all over the place, right? It's not a hangout spot. It is, but like you are not hanging out in there forever. You are also trying to move somewhere, and we've realized that the communities without the destinations are missing something. And the destination could be personal or professional, but the destination is a very valid call out because we just hired salespeople, right, for partnership leaders. And when you hire salespeople, you kind of really get to know where their business is at because the salespeople will have to go and answer to objections that as founders, you don't really need to, right? Because the founder presence a lot of times kind of crosses that sale, if you want to call it, right? But now, as I look at the objections that members or prospective members are sharing, it's very clear that when people join a community, they're looking for a destination. The destination may be the community's existing feature set, or it may be features that you need to add to kind of get them to that point. And we've just designed ours as like, we went through a lot of different segmentation models, but at the end of the day, our community is focused more on the function, right? Partnerships, not channels, alliances, or like the 20 different types of partnerships, but it is all of partnerships, right? Because we believe partnering is the same thing as selling or the same thing as marketing or the same thing as serving, right? It's a verb, you can actually do it, right? And so the destination is you're either going to be a great IC, a great manager, a great a VP, or a great executive, right? There may be other destinations, but this is just where we are today in our evolution, right? And so to me, like the community as a hanging out spot, yes, there is a number of free ones out there. You can just go hang out. But I think the folks that are joining paid communities specifically are looking to get to a destination. That's my learning.
Can I just piggyback off of that? So like pulling on
Please.
that and pulling on the IKEA thing, what you're talking about, I think, is self-object continuity. That is a real term. Again, I just study
Tell
like
us
human.
more.
Yeah, tell us more.
So that is the alignment between a product's attributes, or in this case, a community's attributes, and the user's self-concept. So like another way to think about this is people gravitate towards a brand that closely resembles their self-image, either aspirational or maybe even realized already. So that's like self-object continuity. So when you think about that and you think about like the development of your brand, your community, your product, like whatever, you have to really take that into account. And when you think about communities, free or paid, or a product that is cultivating this broader community, I do think a lot of the times people think about like the persona. You could say persona positioning, right? Like who are we making it for, especially at a community level, versus the point of view positioning that actually creates the connection in someone's mind that says, oh yeah, I see myself like that today, or I want to see myself like that in the future. So therefore, then I want to dedicate or commit to that thing in this case being a community.
Okay, this is great. Because this literally happened, right? And in Q4 to Q1, true story, right? Like we are thinking about, like Chris has already gone full time. I'm thinking about going full time, right? And we're thinking about what are we going to tell the world? Because like we can build the future of partnerships, but like so are 7,000 other people can build the future of partnerships, right? There's like 20 people that are trying to build the future of ecosystems. There's like 20, like there's like just a whole bunch of stuff out there, right? And so we started figuring out like what is our unique point of view and where do we go? And so just like good stewards of B2B go to market, we said, let's get on the phone with our customers and like figure out what the problem really is. And I went through maybe like 20 or 30 conversations until I had a conversation with one of the leaders of partnerships at Avalara. And he said, Asher, the problem is? And I said, no, because if I knew I would have told you, I wouldn't probably be here. But it's like, the problem is nobody knows what good partnering looks like. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. There's never been the good partnering awards. There's like, hey, I became a channel chief. I became this. I became that, blah, 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 blah. It's all me. But there's never the, I did this. I got to this level of impact. I got to this level of movement. I got to this, like you can make it about you. That's totally okay. But there was no, like, what does great partnering look like? And so when we took it apart, we realized that there was a gap in the markets. And the gap in the market was, what does a great partner leader look like? Because if you ask the question, what does a great sales leader or a marketing leader look like? There are standardized metrics that if you're hitting them, you are in that zone. And then it's luck, right? Like somebody could have just joined an AI, a native AI website company versus somebody joined a native community company, and because of the macro trend, the AI company just took off, and then they got to there. But if they were not hitting those industry benchmarks, they were just not even getting a call, right? So that was one part. Then the second part was, what does a great partner program look like? And there's no industry standard benchmarks. If you go ask a sales leader or even an SDR leader, for example, right? And you say, hey, what is the dial to connect ratio for your team? And they'll say 20. And the industry standard is 25. You already know that you're not there, right? But if you're like, hey, what is the industry standard for like partner source leads? That data does not exist, or does not exist from multiple sources that you could actually bring it together and have a conversation, right? And so I totally agree with what Mark just said. And the minute we had, and I'm sorry, I'm telling the story, but like this actually happened. It proves what Mark says works. The minute we had that, we actually went on the Australia trip, and we had 5 different locations. And I told Chris and Chip from Workspan, who was with us, said, let's actually build the slides here in real time. We built the slides on the plane. and we started presenting them at all the different locations. And at the last location, we had one slide that says, we can help you become a great partner leader, or we can help you build a great partner program. That slide, you could see people nodding and subscribing. That kicked the whole thing off. So it totally, Mark, what you're saying totally works, but you got to give that strong point of view. And if you don't have it, work on figuring out how to build one. And if people are struggling with it, go call Mark or call Leslie, because both of them went through the exercise.
I like the way that I just love Mark's idea to be in about that object. What did you call that again? Self-alignment?
Self-object continuity. Yeah, you can Google it.
Self-object continuity.
SOC.
But it's almost to what you're...
That IT people have SOC too.
But it's also, you're also saying future self-object continuity. So you need to be able to see your future self in there, and how you take that whole process gets you to that next thing.
It could be both. It could be like altruistic in nature, or it could be like something you've already realized that's like, oh man, those are like my people, or that's my jam, that's my thing. I'm going in on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can see that. I recently joined a new community, which, I probably didn't need to join yet another community, but this one is a paid community. It is, it's for women who are solopreneurs, growing their business. It's Lori Richardson's Women Sales Pros, even though I'm not necessarily in sales. But but I'm also, an entrepreneur. And so I have the things that I'm learning from them. They are exactly what you're saying. They're the people that I aspire, that I want to see myself as. I feel like, I think maybe many people feel this when they first join a community. They don't feel like they have the skills of the level of the people around them. But in seeing them and talking to them, I'm like, but even if I don't, I'm okay with that, because I'm, a very open learner and a hungry learner. But those are the people I want to learn from. And those are the people I want to, be like when I grow up. So I can see that in action also, to go to Asher's point, in action in my life and in my career at this moment as well.
And that's why community building is going to be so front and center in the future world of so dominated by AI in all aspects of our life. I mean, that's the answer right there.
Yeah. How are you both seeing community? Like, I did a small poll on LinkedIn. It was like people want small niche communities. Now, obviously, Asher, you're building a larger community you could still call it niche, because your focus is very narrow. That was one of the, that was one of the definitions, was like, a narrow area of focus. Small was secondary, was the narrow area of focus was first. Like, how are you thinking about that growth in community with that desire that people want more of these, small, what we're calling small niche communities?
You could almost think of it as like cyclical, if you will, like tide comes in, tide goes out. I don't know. I mean, I think there's like just some like macro human behavior trends that like make this happen, right? The reason I say that is like we started with like these macro communities in the form of MySpace, Facebook, et cetera, right? And then like if you study some of like the interesting industries that are nothing to do with B2B, like gaming could be one, even though gaming technically isn't that big, but it's pretty big. Like, it starts to niche down pretty hard in a few different things, right? And there's platforms that allow you to build niche communities. The technology from a hardware standpoint has enabled us to become everyone a creator. So that allows you to become more niche in what you do and who you talk to, et cetera, along with the software then. So I kind of like, I zoom out and try to think about like things that humans have created that impact humans at a more macro level. And then just the news cycle, you got to consider the news cycle around some of these things. You got to consider politics around some of these things, which plays into the news. So yeah, I don't know. I'm giving you, I guess, both like a very like kind of like big kind of like answer, because I actually think that's where a lot of this comes from it. And people are being influenced in ways that then are asking themselves some interesting questions, which then leads them to a path to say, I want to create my more intimate tribes. I'm sick of hanging out in these like big places.
I think fundamentally people are asking what's real and what's not. And how do we get closer to real? And where do I get proven things that work versus things that people are throwing at me, right? Like we went from like, and I'm going to say this out and probably get judged for it, but we went from like the Tony Robbins era to the Grant Cardone era to, I don't know, the Island Boys era to like the Andrew Tate era, you know, like there's like you open up YouTube or any of these like shorts, the form like media that you can consume, and there's like somebody saying something, right? And we all know that they all can't be right. And these figures are so polarizing that people are like, I can't even be this person in my real life. Forget my fake life, right? And so then you get to a point where people are like thinking, well, how do I just achieve this next level of success? Not become like the CEO of Microsoft, but I'm just trying to just get to this part. And some people are at the point where they say, once I hit this, I'm good with life because I don't have large aspirations. I just want to perform at this level with other people that are performing at this level. And I don't want to go back a level because I really enjoy the lifestyle that this level allows me to do, right? And that is what I think has actually brought niche communities into play. Because when you have a community, just think about it this way. If you had a community, and we'll build one right now as a thought experiment, right? If you had a community where CFOs and marketers hung out, guess who would talk to each other?
Marketers.
Exactly. But I would also say nobody, because they'll be like, wait, if I say something, I'm going to get smacked for something, blah, 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 right? So like, but if you had a community of marketers and there was a channel called CFO Conversations, you would have a lot of CMOs sharing like, hey, I did this and here's how I got to that. And here's how I can help you speak that in. So people are just trying to get to a safe place where they can have conversations about just a specific range of topics and move to the next level or just perform well at their level. And that's what I think is actually happening in the market right now.
Do you think you're going to have you already not adjusted, but like, do you have small places within your community already, Asher, that kind of address those little, like you said, micro communities within the larger setting?
Yeah. So 2 things I'm really proud of that Chris does, because he has member success as a pillar, is when we find that a topic or a channel is out of scope, we just deprecate it. Or we rename it to the topic that is current. This way, it sends a signal to our members that we have acknowledged that this is not a isolated topic of conversation. There's a budding trend around it, and you should go and talk about it, right? And then it signals that. The other piece that we do is when we find that people are really looking to become great at something that is a tangible thing, like it'll actually provide a result that most likely results in revenue, we start creating small cohorts around it. And then people get the large community feel or experience with a small community feel. Actually, that's the right way to say it. Like, it's the large community experience with the small community feel. Because there's like tons of, like, in our community, you'll find somebody from SAP, also somebody from like a 2-person startup, right? And so they want to learn from each other because access is what a community really provides. But in a small group, it can be less intimidating to ask a question that a very seasoned executive would come back and say, well, this actually wasn't the way you're supposed to do it. So that's what we see that's happening right now, at least in PL.
Yeah. What about you, Mark? Are you have any community ideas of your own?
Well, I started one up recently. It's like 5 weeks old. I'm actually not calling it a community. I'm calling it a membership club. So you become a member. I mean, of course, that will spawn community-esque things, but I'm definitely purposely positioning it differently for a few different reasons. We can get into that if you want. But going back to kind of
I'd love to hear.
Yeah, okay. I'll share those in a second. Just going back to like your question, go to Asher's point. Trust definitely is, but going back again to human psychology, what I think you basically, if I had to sum up everything you said into 2 words, Asher, it's almost like psychological safety. Right? There's just psychological safety. And then then there's the sense of belonging, inclusivity versus exclusivity. I actually think you need both in a community. Ironically enough, we could debate that and talk about that a bit more. But so this idea of like this membership club, it's just, again, purposeful positioning. It's less about the persona, the people. It's like, you have a strong point of view, and we're positioning it as a place where at least the founder, I guess in my case, like, is adding like tangible value. You could say tangible value, maybe perceived value, depending on who you are and what you think of it, in the form of like daily, weekly, monthly benefits that come with the membership. And it's not just, hey, come join this thing, and every so often we're going to give you some value, and really the value lies in the connections and conversations you have with people. That's more the output of you signing up and starting to consume the things that at least I'm sharing every day, every week, every month. That's around this people first, go to market kind of model point of view. So yeah, I'm doing it a bit different, which harkens back a little bit maybe to the days of HubSpot, where it started with inbound marketing as a point of view, very, very strong. And we built a membership up over time, branding it HubSpot Academy, not calling it a community, even though it turned into a massive community that spawned sub-communities. That was a huge node in the network of HubSpot and created very strong, network effects and massive ecosystem things. It was purposely built out. Hindsight's 2020, but like we never intentionally did it, but we didn't call it a community because we were providing a service or a product in the form of content and education that related to this point of view that then got people to connect and start conversations. So yeah, maybe there's something there to unpack, but that's just the way that I'm thinking about it.
I agree. And like again, as we were kind of putting the narrative together, like we definitely say we have community, but I would actually like to define ourselves as a platform for success more than anything else, because that's,
I was going to ask you about that.
Ultimately, like that's where we're headed, right? And again, I'm in no rush to kind of launch this movement. It's that I'm kind of like, people need to like save their jobs right now more than anything, than follow movements and stuff. But at some point in time, these communities will graduate, membership associations. Interesting, our bank account, actually, the SIC code says it's a membership association. When you go to get a bank account for your paid community, they will ask you for an SIC code, and the most relevant one is actually membership association. But the community 2.0 or 3.0 will get to a point where they really are platforms for success, and the HubSpot Academy would be like a perfect example of that, because the word community, as you rightly said, it really means belonging. And you can't, like, there's no like belonging scorecard. The belonging is a feeling that you get by hanging around people that are like similar to you. But connecting definitely is something that can be actioned. You can do one-to-one, one-to-few, few-to-few, many-to-many. You could provide destinations, and the destinations are, again, professional, personal. You can provide resources, which are frameworks, playbooks, and the likes. But the community is just like, again, I struggle with it too. So I'm glad like I'm not the only one. But we definitely, whenever we're all ready to do community 2.0 or 3.0, we should definitely call it something else, because the community aspect of these things is already there. It's a byproduct of bringing people together.
That's true. I like the way that you look at that, is like that, that the community, the belonging comes after or as a byproduct to what you are giving them as value. One thing you said, Mark, I like the way you've positioned that as a club, because in my mind, a club is very activity based. You don't go to a club to sit around on the sidelines and do nothing. You go to a club because you're actually going to join, you're going to do activities. And it's just assumed in the way we think about club that in order to get benefits, I have to participate. Nobody wins any, Girl Scout awards if you don't sell the cookies. I love that perspective. And I assume, based on our conversation here and how much you think about human psychology, that was a very big player in how you decided to name that.
Definitely. Yeah. We're going to have like 2 or 3 memberships over time. Riffing with like names, but like, social lifestyle versus maybe VIP. Right. So, absolutely, like, you and that's on for many different levels and reasons why we're doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's you got to be you got to be different. You do have to follow patterns. Like David Cancel, friend of mine, right? Drift CEO. I guess he's executive chairperson now, but he's always like, innovate, don't invent. Innovate, don't invent. And basically what he's saying is like follow patterns, because patterns are, some are so strong that they can almost never be broken. And I mean, they're the habit loops, they're habits. Like you can call them a ton of different things, describe them, but like that's to some degree what you just said, Leslie, right? Like it's just like the pattern of like the identity of a club. We've all been part of clubs. It could be a golf club, it could be a social club, it could be the Girl Scouts, right? Whatever. Like study those things, right? Like study that stuff and pick up on some cues maybe from that.
Yeah. And then the idea when you were saying like the patterns, and it's like rituals, there's a lot of talk about, in community building rituals. Like what is, how do you say hello? How do you get welcomed? How, what are the things that are like, if I say I'm going into partnership leaders, I know I'm going to experience these 3 rituals. So it's very similar in what you're saying too, Mark.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I think you need like that ritual. We have a daily, weekly, and monthly ritual. There's ad hoc stuff, things that come up as well. And we position it as like kind of a nightclub. It's called like Club PF, and it's not on Slack. Purposely did that. It's built on a membership experience, right? A tool that is more about members, right? And it's it's you get the welcome bar, you got the lounge, we have a stage. It's intentionally designed, so it creates like a holistic kind of experience around it as well. And like goes back to my days kind of HubSpot, where we call people like professors. People are like, Kilens, you're telling me like you're going to call someone a professor? I'm like, heck yes, I am, because it's going to be very different. And guess what? That never has. People tried to change that. People wanted to change that. It never changed in almost 20 years. So, you got to be intentional with a lot of this stuff at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to share with us the name of the platform that you bought, or does that need to be super secret?
No. It's Club PF, Club People First. So just clubpf.co.
Oh, no, but
yeah.
What are you hosting it on?
That's what I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Leslie. Mighty Networks. Mighty Networks.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm surprised. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I would love to take a peek in there just to kind of see what's going on, because I'm still on my quest to find the perfect membership platform. It does not exist. I'm befriending every platform CEO, and if they'll let me talk to their product team, I'm going to take that call in a hot second, because it does not exist. And you can't even Frankenstein it still. And so, all about getting the gum and the duct tape and the glue out and seeing what we can do.
Yeah, we built one at Drift through 5 or 6 different tools. Half of that was WordPress plugins. Half of that was a proprietary backend database. Some Marketo integrations, some Salesforce integrations. Not great. I mean, HubSpot Academy, we built that purely on HubSpot stack. That was built in-house, never used anything third-party except for the assessment software that powered one of our like flagship product offerings, which were certifications. So yeah, if you can build it on your own, that's kind of dream state. Not very few people can do that. So I agree with you. There isn't really a perfect or even good solution.
I'm still working on learning. I'm like really mastering Excel. I'm not building anything, but I got a lot of ideas for smart people to build for me. That's how that's working. Well, awesome. Well, let's transition just real quick into like what's top of mind. What's top of mind for both of you as we roll into, I can't believe about to say, well, it's not quite the second half of the year, almost the second half of the year. So, Asher, why don't you give us what's top of mind for you?
The super top of mind, transparently, is our conference. It's about 3 months away, and interesting, Mark. I was going to actually ask you this question too, but you can answer it once I stop talking about it. Like we actually got 95% of our like sponsorships done 3 months out. So I don't know if that's if that jives with like conference metrics or not. But the show is being designed as
small subtle flex.
Exactly. The show is actually being designed as an unconference, and And what was interesting about this was we said that all the early ticket purchasers will help us design the conference. So every little part of it, we actually send it to them and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Would you enjoy this? And then we get their feedback back, and then we make decisions off of that. And then even all the way down to like the people that are going to be speaking are all vetted already by the folks that are coming. And it's a very tailored experience. And then when you get to the show, there's no panels. And it's all like lightning talks, and there's like rock climbing walls and like oxygen bars and stuff like that. And this is it's all designed on the concept of connections 24/7, which is really what the community is all about. Also, it's like we just center on that. And so that's top of mind right now, is just making sure that we get the content right, the speakers right, and the experience right, and get it all done. And for folks who are interested, it's www.joincatalyst.com.
I think I just want to point out something here. Like, you are building your event the way you build a community.
Yes.
You know, they're supposed to build your community with your members, not for your members. I've not heard, I'm sure Mark knows much more about this. I've never heard of anybody building their event literally with their members in real time. I mean, yeah, they're going to say they built it because they sent a survey, but it's not the same thing as what you're describing. So it's really, you have a community built conference or unconference.
Yeah. Well, let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
So, Mark, is that a good metric, or I'm still curious. What does the metric look like? Should you have 100% of your sponsorships done a month in advance, 2 months in advance, 3 months in advance?
I think it's very good because, you know, give you that much more time to execute with excellence when it comes to integrating those partners into. By the way, you shouldn't call them sponsors; you should call them partners. But integrating those partners into the unconference, into the event, and the only thing I caveat that with is, like, you better have then exceeded your revenue goal if you did that, because I mean, you know, it's all relative to the goal, in my opinion.
Yep.
True. Well, what's top of mind for you, Mark?
I'd say we're at this inflection point. You know, the last 15 years, I've been doing this for almost 15 years in terms of, like, you know, B2B go-to-market, mostly focused on the marketing side, and definitely at an inflection point. I break it down. There's 5 reasons why I think we're at this inflection point. All of them have a reason why we got here. I'm sure there's another one that's going to come up at some point. So I do think there's going to be a lot of amazing disruption and innovation that happens in the next 5 years. And there's going to be then another like 10-year period of just crazy hyper growth again. But, you know, we're in this kind of like, we're not in hyper growth spot. This is the first time we haven't been here maybe in 15, 20 years. So I think that's hard on a lot of people. It's confusing to a lot of people. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, what are the truths that have always been true that could be, you know, modeled and packaged in a different way now because of the advent of so many different new things, both hardware and software wise, that are going to help the future, like today's businesses, but also the future businesses, be successful. So it's like, I think of businesses in 4 phases: startup, scale up, sustainer, survivor. So what's going to happen, I think, very quickly is there's going to be a lot of businesses that are maybe scale-ups that are actually not is happening. I should say is happening. A lot of businesses that were scale-ups are now sustainers. A lot of businesses that were sustainers even might be trying to be in like survivorship now, or will be soon, pretty quickly. So it's like all these dynamics that are at play. So I'm just trying to get to a point where, like, what's that? What are those fundamental truths that can be used to help a business keep growing, albeit in a slightly different way? People first, community, and because B2B still is not caught up to B2C, but now we're saying, wait a minute, now you have to like still be catching up, and like all this other stuff's going to happen to you. You know, good luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you thought the people first part of what you're evangelizing for right now is a big enough thing to go back and anchor to? You said, there was these fundamental truths. What are the fundamental truths that will take a business to the next level? Do you think that people first go to market is a big enough fundamental truth to take businesses to that next level?
Oh, God. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So I do, just because of these 5 things, and I'm sure there's more than these 5. And I mean, Asher, you and I have talked about these, I'm pretty sure. So please chime in with your comments. I know you have some.
Yep.
One is just like content explosion. You can't deny that, right? Everyone creates content every single day. And now you got AIs creating content. I mean, it's just content explosion. Channel saturation. Another reason why niching down is happening. We need new channels. So it's another reason, channel saturation. The inevitable tide changing of digital tracking, cookies, JavaScripts, blockers, all this blah, 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 right? Then you have what we just went through for 3 years, and we're still feeling it for sure. We'll probably feel it for many, many more years. But the pandemic, massive shifts, that's more like hybrid remote work for the most part, right? Like that's implicating itself tremendously across so many different things. And then the convergence of AI. So some of these things have been happening for a long time, or maybe more they're kind of slowing down ish. Others have been happening, but now they're speeding up. Like content, you could say, well, it's actually speeding up in terms of content explosion. It's like, oh crap, that's not fun. AI, who knows what's to make of that? It's super early. So yeah, I think if you look at all those things, it's why Asher is such a huge believer, and you're such a huge believer in partnerships and community and connections, right? It's is anyone going to ever grow up? Probably not in my lifetime, maybe in someone else's lifetime, but grow up and say, hey, I want to be an AI versus I want to be this person. It's an interesting thought exercise. So
Best had over a couple beers, I think. I think that would just really up our conversation.
Yeah, just getting really heady, right?
Yep. Well, awesome. We are just about out of time, but I do want to ask, because since in this People Powered Community podcast, I always ask everyone what their superpower is, and we're not going to dive really into it. I'm going to caveat first is a superpower is not that you're amazing at B2B marketing. Something underneath that. And if you can tell me what your superpower is, and then where do you think it came from? And do that in 2 minutes each. And Mark, you go first.
I'm a connector, both of people, but of then also ideas and concepts. Probably comes from me having a very entrepreneurial upbringing and mindset. I was doing stuff on my own, trying to make money, hustling when I was 8, 9 years old, selling vegetables. Then I had a small business called Snowscape. And then I went to school, and I got I switched majors, I think officially 5 times, because I kept on getting bored and I want to look at this, I want to study that, look at that. So I ended up with a major and 2 minors in 4 years. But I think that's my superpower. Is I can connect things very quickly, and I can connect people together quickly.
How about you, Asher?
I would say the same thing. But this is actually true, because when I moved to this country in 2001, the whole hypothesis for going through school for a computer science degree was to take all the technical concepts and then make them very simple for business users, and then take the business requirements and translate them for technical users. This way, there's a flywheel that gets created. And it's been core to pretty much what I've done since landing in this country.
Okay. We need more people with that skill, specifically talking in, tech to business people and business people to tech. There should be AI. I should be able to go into AI and say, I want to tell a VP of engineering X, yes, and it will give me the engineering words to use for that sentence, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, well, awesome. I really appreciate you both being here with me today. It's been a great conversation spanning communities and partnerships and people first and people powered and everything. So, Asher, even though we didn't remember until just into the podcast why we were going to get together, I think it was well worth it. So I appreciate you both joining us. Folks, that's all for this week's episode, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.